So you just installed some EV chargers. You did some research, you thought about it a while, and finally you pulled the trigger and had them installed. Now that they're in there, they're all ready to go and it's time to start making money, right? Well, yes, but first you have to decide on a couple things. The first thing you have to decide is how you're going to make your money. See, there's a few ways that you can actually bill clients for using your chargers. And that's what I want to discuss today. The 3 ways you can bill for using your EV chargers. My name's Trevor. I've been a consultant in the EV charging industry for a few years now. I've definitely picked up some valuable information along the way that I'm sure can help you. Today, I want to dive into the 3 ways that you can bill to use your EV chargers. So just to go over them quickly, the first one is time-based. The second one is energy-based. And the third one is a hybrid of the two, and we'll call that hybrid pricing. All right, so let's dive in. Okay, so the first is a time-based model. This was really popular in the very early days of EV charging. I think still a lot of chargers that you'll find out there in the wild will be actually time-based. Pros and cons to this one, I guess, depending on which side of the charger you're on. For the hosts, it's a much more simpler method. I think that's why most companies went with time-based at first. Really, you just have to bill for the amount of time that the car is sitting in that parking stall charging. The other advantage for the host of time-based is, not all cars charge super fast, especially right now as the technology is still in its infancy. Cars charge pretty slow. But if you're on the other side of the EV charger, being the EV driver, you don't necessarily want to just pay for the amount of time that you spend there. You would more likely want to pay for the amount of power that you're receiving or the juice that you're consuming. And that leads us to our next point. The second model that we'll discuss is called the energy-based model. This is where the host or the owner of the EV charger charges the EV driver based on the amount of energy the car consumes, hence the energy-based model. It's usually measured in kilowatts, so how many kilowatts a car will consume equals the amount that they are charged. The host of the station can set a different rate or a different price per kilowatt that the driver will have to pay for consuming that energy. Often this is up to the host's discretion, but usually right now in Vancouver, it's per kilowatt, it's probably floating around about 30 cents. I like this model the best. It's definitely the most fair. You're paying for the amount of juice you're consuming. So it's almost like going to a restaurant and instead of paying for the food that you order, you're paying for the amount of time that you sat there, how long it took for the food to come out. I mean, it's not a perfect analogy, but you get my point. When it comes to the energy-based model, a lot of EV charging companies are now shifting away from the time-based model and more towards the energy-based model. As everybody's kind of getting more established in the industry, they're able to figure it out a little bit better. Also, a lot of EV drivers now have their own chargers at home. They're getting more familiar with how much they're paying per kilowatt based on their energy supplier. So it's a different feeling when you go from paying for a kilowatt at home and you go out to a grocery store and end up having to pay by time. So I think everything across the industry is becoming a little bit more synonymous now. Okay, and the third model I want to talk about, the last one here, it's called hybrid pricing. This is the least common model of pricing that you'll find on the market. It's really useful in certain applications, and it's essentially a mix between billing by energy and time combined, as it says the hybrid model. An example I can give you is actually right near my work, there's a university. They have a whole row of EV chargers right when you pull up into the parking lot. Whenever you want to use the EV chargers, you have to pay for 2 things. You have to pay for using the EV charger itself and how much energy you're consuming, as well as how long you leave your car parked in that stall. That's an example of the hybrid model. You have to pay for parking and you also have to pay for the use of using the chargers. It kind of makes sense because, if I was driving a gas car and I just had to pay $10 an hour or whatever crazy amount it is now to park, and I was leaving and walked by a bunch of electric cars that are all parking for free but only having to pay for EV charging. Maybe I'm bitter, but that would kind of, rub me the wrong way. So that's one example of the hybrid model. It's not as common, but for certain locations, it does work well. There's a quick overview of the 3 different models that can be used to bill customers for using your EV chargers. I wanted to stick with a pretty broad, high-level overview of the 3 different options. If you're looking for more information, I go into a lot more detail on my website. Feel free to check it out. It's strongenergy-ev.com. And whatever stage you're at in your EV charging journey, I promise you there's going to be some information on there that will help you out. There's lots on there. It's really everything that I think is valuable. I'm trying to get out there for you guys. For me, as I've said before, goal number 1 is to help you save time and money. Just make this whole thing a lot more simple. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.